Good afternoon to everyone present here. Extremely sorry for the delays. We had a few technical issues. We're back on track now. So my name is Shahid. I'm a core committee member of IET-VIT, and I'm glad to welcome you all to another workshop of the quantum series, AppDev. AppDev Simplified with Mr. Soham Dixit. He has completed his formal education from SRM University and is currently working as an engineer at the esteemed MNC American Express. He has participated in and won several hackathons like D3 Code, American Express, Code Street, Airbus Aerothon, and many more. So we are very grateful to have you with us today. The platform is all yours.
Thanks, Sheesh, for that introduction. I'm audible, right?
Yes, sir, you are.
All right, cool. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. So, yeah, apologize for the technical issues we had. Yeah, back on track. So, yeah, without wasting much time, probably let me share my screen. I'll start with the agenda, what we're going to do today. I'm not a huge fan of presentations, and also I'll keep it simple, short, crisp, and probably we'll have a good hands-on session as well. And at the end of session, probably you'll have something to see at your mobile, like application running in your mobile as well. That's what I'm setting up an expectation right now. So without delaying much, just let me share my screen and we shall start with it. All right. I guess my screen is now visible. Okay, so introduction to application development. First and foremost, right, like on the occasion of Teachers Day today, I would like to wish all my teachers, my seniors, my juniors, friends, colleagues, or everyone now happy Teachers Day. And yeah, with their blessings, let's start with this workshop of introduction to application development. I know most of you, I was just going through the comments as well. You are excited to know more about what application development is. You want to build some apps at your end as well. So probably let's see what we're gonna do today. So before starting with the session about application development, let's quickly let me talk about my journey as a developer. So how I have been as a developer starting from my college days. So as she's introduced, I graduated from SRM University in 2020, BTech IT. Post that, right, I have been into this application development initially since my college years. So I was someone who came without a coding background. Like I belong to a state board, Maharashtra State Board. We had this subject called as computer science, but there was not much of coding stuff involved over there, wherein I worked on it. So you can term it as, right, when I started with my engineering, I didn't have that coding background which people usually have based out of CBSE background and all, right? So I was someone who had the passion to build an application. I actually didn't know how coding, like what coding actually is or how it's gonna work out for me. But what I knew was I want to build an application. That's it. That was my goal. So with that, I started exploring this application development domain. Um, and then things happened as I went through. So I started like whatever I learned, right, as a developer. The two important sources for me have been YouTube and Stack Overflow, to be frank. So that's how I developed myself as a developer. I did a couple of other certifications as well, but to be frank, YouTube is something which helped me a lot in this journey. So I went on to explore different videos. I went on to implement different solutions. I built applications, and that's how my journey started. I'll go on to the next part as well, right? Like what actually helped me in becoming or doing something good in this field of application development, because you might have questions, right? So there are lots of videos on YouTube. Even we do explore those videos. We also build something out of that, but that's not working for us. Probably that's something which you might have as one of your question. So probably let me take that up as well, right? As a developer, like as someone starting from his college journey, right? I actually started with this application development, what application is, how applications are built, in my second semester. As I said, I didn't know what coding is, but I just had a passion of building apps, and that's how I started my journey. And then different steps, right, like different things came up, I willingly participated in that, I took that as a challenge, and that's how I developed myself in this field of application development. So let me go on to a next important part, right, of me being an application developer, what actually has helped me. So this word, right, which you see at the top, hackathon, right? Hackathon is something which has helped me a lot as a developer to grow myself, right? Like it has helped me to challenge myself, challenge my learnings, and learn something out of that. Because right, if you keep on doing something which you actually know, right, it gets a bit boring for you. You find that comfort uh, which exists in your life. So to challenge myself, right, I did participate in a lot of hackathons, as I was introduced at the start, right? I'm someone who is a huge hackathon fan. So that's how, like, that's what helped me to build myself as a good developer, I would say. Because at each and every hackathon, right, there were different expectations, there were some different learnings so involved, right? It was not something wherein I knew everything and I just wanted to participate just to win. But because for me, whenever I participated in hackathon, right, it's not something which I do to win it. I want that experience which I get out of that, because that experience is something which will help me eventually in my journey later on. And I guess, right, participants who are attending this live session are aware about this term hackathon. If you are not, probably we'll have a small session at the end if time permits, wherein I can talk a bit about hackathon and why you should participate. I mean, like everyone who's attending this session right now, I want you guys to participate in the hackathon. There are different hackathons available online. Do participate, challenge yourself. You might question yourself, like, I don't know anything, I don't know what development is. See, unless and until you participate, right, you're not going to, like, you're not going to be aware of what it actually is. I Let me share a quick small experience of mine, right? So my first hackathon was Smart India Hackathon 2018. So you might be aware of this Smart India Hackathon organized by Government of India at the central level, right? So before participating to Smart India Hackathon, right, I knew just bits and pieces of what application is, how applications are built, and how things happen, right? But when it came to participating in a hackathon, right, I actually questioned myself, right, to be frank. Am I someone who actually knows how we can actually build an application, or how we can actually build a solution to a particular problem, right? That was something which I asked myself, which I discussed with my peers as well. But what happened eventually was, right, I decided to take it up as a challenge, because end result was either I gonna win or I gonna lose. But what's gonna help me out there was like the experience I'm going to get by participating over there. So without any hesitation, I registered for it. 15 20 days I worked really hard, right? Day and night I worked on this application side, like what applications are, how they are built, what is something which I need to learn. Because as I said at the start, right, it's not something which you already know, which you're gonna directly implement. At each and every hackathon there are different problems to be solved. Those problems requires different solutions, something which you need to learn and implement. So that's quite like a fantastic journey, I would say, and that's what actually built me as a developer. Like in the last hackathon where I participated in, right, I didn't know anything about something called as augmented reality, AR. But I just decided to explore with my team what AR is, and we just decided to try that out in our application, in our mobile app. So that problem required this solution of augmented reality. We decided to learn it, implement it. So that's how it has been for me. Like for each and every hackathon there were different learnings involved, and that's what shaped me as a developer, I would say. And to start with, right, like my hackathon journey, I have one Smart India Hackathon 2018. That was my first hackathon where I participated in. I know, like, you guys might have questions on Smart India Hackathon as well. Probably will take it at the end if you have. The next one I participated in was Airbus Hackathon. After that came American Express Code Street, UST Global Hackathon. So almost like all the hackathons I participated in, our team had the top three positions. And we even deployed the project which we built in Smart India Hackathon, right, for government. So when I say you, right, don't only focus on winning particular thing, like the experience, the network you're gonna get over there by participating, right? You'll cherish that network lifelong. It's not only about participating over there and that is the end. The people you meet over there, right? The participants you meet over there coming across India, you get to network with them, you get to connect with them, you get to know them. That's how eventually you also come to know where you actually are standing, right, when you are competing yourself at the national level or global level. So that's how it has been for me, and that's in short. I can talk about hackathon right now because I know we are having this session on application development, so I won't talk much about hackathon. But yeah, hackathons have played a key role in shaping myself as a good developer, and this experience is even helping me out currently when I'm working out in the industry, right, at various organizations where I work out. This experience is immensely helping me out to work on different problems right now as well. So that's in short about hackathon, which I would which I wanted to share with you all. Probably I'm happy to answer any of the questions you have at the end of this session. I won't do it right now. So moving on to the next part, right? So building an application, right? So the topic which we are discussing today is introduction to application development. Now this is something, right? I'm not going to teach you a tech stack. I'm not going to teach you React. I'm not going to teach you Angular. I'm not going to teach you Ionic. I'm not going to focus more on the tech side of how an application is to be built or how you need to do coding. Because, right, what I feel is when people want to build an application, right, they are like, I want to build an application, let's go, let's see what frameworks are popular, what frameworks are widely used, what is that something which is going to add on to my resume. They start directly building an application. Here React Native is something which is widely used in industry, let's go, let's learn React and let's implement, let's build an application. Because but that's not how things work out, right? The first and foremost thing, right, before you start building an application is you should, and like, you should ask this question to yourself: how should I approach a problem, right? For example, today, right, what we're gonna do in this session is I'll be explaining you the mindset behind building an application. And you are the one who will recommend me of what we're actually gonna code. You will tell me and I'll code. It's not about what tech stack we're gonna use, but it's more about how applications are built. What's that ideology which one should have while building an application, right? And what it takes to learn, implement, and build a working solution. So that's what we're gonna focus today. Just setting up an expectation of this workshop. And another thing, right, about myself, I have couple of my applications on Google Play Store as well. I'm not maintaining those right now, but still they do. They are active on Play Store with 10,000 plus downloads right now. So even that is what something which helped me in building myself as a developer. Because in my holidays, right, in my college holidays, when I was exploring about this application development, right, I used to have these discussions with my dad as well, with my family members, just on what should I try it out, right? Something like, my passion was building a mobile app. That doesn't mean your passion will also be building a mobile app, but just I wish to follow my passion. I wanted to have one application on Google Play Store. That was my aim. One application with 100 downloads. That's it. That was something which seemed to be like a far-fetched idea for me, someone coming out of this without a coding background. It felt like that, but eventually when I crossed the 10,000 download mark, right, I was quite happy. And I still love, right, like last week when I was traveling, I saw a person sitting next to me using my application. So that's what gave me pleasure as well. And that's what even helped me to learn different things. Because when I'm going to talk next, right, of how one should approach a problem, probably we'll discuss there in detail about this thing which I'm explaining you right now, right, why it makes sense. And probably if you ask this question to yourself, right, you will also get an answer to that. So yeah, moving forward, right, so this is what we're going to discuss today: idea behind building an application. Don't worry, we will be coding an application, we will be executing it. you can check that application out. I'll share a GitHub link with you, wherein you can just clone the code, try it out, or if you have the setup installed at your end, you can even code alongside me. I'm okay with that as well. So moving on, right? Diving into application development. I know you guys might be eager to see my ID, the coding which I gonna do. But before going to that step, right? Let's discuss a bit about this field of application development. So as we discussed, right, before building something, before coding out something, right, understand the idea behind building an application, because it's not something like you have a problem, you directly start coding the solution. It's not going to work like that. When you get a problem, right, or when you identify a problem, do a bit research about that problem. It's like doing a case study of that particular problem. What actually exists in market, what is something which if you build will add a value to that particular thing, right? What is that something which will add the uniqueness to your solution? Why will people use your application, right? I'm bit thinking it from a wide vision, where I say you, why will people use your application? That's also something which you should think of if you're gonna publish that application out on Play Store, App Store, anywhere else. If you are going to make it use for a internal purpose, that also you need to think for someone, or for the application you are building for yourself, right? Why you are going to use that application? Such questions you should ask yourself, right? And it's not difficult, to be frank, to learn different technologies. Like, technologies keep on changing. Like, we had Android Studio with Java, we now have Android Studio with Kotlin, we have React Native, we have Ionic, we have different frameworks, right? We have Flutter as well. So I don't feel so it's difficult to learn different technologies. Like, and to be frank, right, when everyone started with this field, sorry, I guess there was some disturbance in the video, which I came to know. But I guess now I'm okay to start with. Okay. So yeah, what I was trying to explain is, right, like, everyone was a beginner to start with. So do not hesitate to try out different things. That is something which I wanted to share. Okay. Uh, Fine. Fine. And yeah, when I talk about this development, right? So development is more about experimenting what you learn. This is like something which I have a strong belief in. It's something which you should learn, right? Because I see a lot of people, right? They do like, for example, right? You want to try out application development, right? What you do is you just go to these online websites which provide you different courses. You just do that certification just for one sole purpose. Your purpose is that it will add value to my resume. That's not something which I recommend personally, because I see a lot of people, right, that do different certifications just to add in their resume. They feel like that will add some value in my resume, but that's not how it works, right? When it comes to development, right, whatever you are learning, whatever it is, I'm not only talking about application development, whatsoever it is which you decide to learn, right, try to implement that out somewhere. So for example, whatever I'm going to teach you today, right, just don't after this workshop probably try out different elements involved, different components involved in building an application. Try out different thing. Once you try out, right, you get an overall idea about how things work, and that's what gives you interest as well. So don't just only focus on the certification part, like I'm going to do this certification and I'll add it in my resume, it will help me in making myself like stand apart from the crowd. That's not how things work out, because eventually even if you add it in your resume, right, they're gonna question you about what you have actually added over there. So I believe in practical learning when it comes to exploring different tech stacks as well. So try out different things. That's what I wanted to say from here. So yeah, important question. What are we going to build today? So I'll start, right, as I told you at the start. We'll be building a basic application, a very basic application. Probably you'll laugh at me when we say when I say like this is what we're gonna build today. But my main motive for you is not about uh, being a pro after this workshop, but my main motive is this workshop should act as a kickstart for you in this field of application development. Probably after this workshop, right, you guys can try out different things. Message me out there, I'll share my contact details with you. You can question me out over there as well. So I'm not expecting everyone to be a pro developer after this workshop, but what I want you is, right, after this workshop, probably this should act as a kickstart for you in this field of application development. So we'll discuss on a basic application which we'll build. um, you'll help me in identifying the components which we can add in that application, and you are going to tell me like this is how our application should be, and I am the one who will be coding it out. So I'll code alongside you. You tell me, I code. You say me, let's create this page, let's create this activity, I'll code it. Okay, so that's how we'll do. And yep, let's start with the basic application. And when I said, right, tech stack of your choice, I'm not going to force anything as such. Probably people attending this might know something more than what I know. You can follow that, but what I'm going to focus more on is, right, how one should think while building an application. And what I'm going to use today to build an application is Ionic, Ionic. The reason why I have chosen Ionic for this workshop, like I could have chosen Android Studio or I could have chosen React Native, but I feel, right, most of you are acquainted with basic HTML and CSS. So I don't want you to confuse a lot with a lot of technicalities of how things happen, because if I confuse you, right, you might lose out interest. So I just want you to the prerequisites are like, if you know basic HTML tags, I'm happy with it, because it will at least help you in understanding what I'm gonna code today. And that's the reason I've chosen Ionic over other platforms. It's easier to understand, and it's like quite fast. Like it's actually faster when the development comes up, right? Like you can actually code applications at a quite pace with Ionic. So that's the reason I've chosen Ionic. You can choose any version of Ionic. I'll today use Ionic 3. I know it's kind of bit outdated. Like we have Ionic 5 as well right now, but I'll use Ionic 3. With Ionic 5, there are different options available for you as well. But as I said, you right, I don't want to confuse you a lot with a lot of technicalities. So I'll be using an Ionic 3. You should just understand basic HTML, CSS. That's it. I'm not even CSS. We are not going to touch that part as well. We are just going to make use of Ionic 3 and Angular. What it actually is or how we're gonna do that, probably I'll discuss on that. And another thing is, right, the components which we are going to use in this application, they're readily out available over there. I'll be sharing that link with you as well. So it will be more like we'll make use of those components in building your application, but we'll also think of why we are building this, which we don't actually. So when I say, right, we are going to build this page, we'll more focus on the part why we should build or why this page should exist. So yeah, as said, like we'll understand the thought process. And yep, development, as I said, it's not only about coding, but it's beyond that. Like let's brainstorm, ideate, build, and then let's think of deploy. Let's just not dive into coding like I'm going to code from today. It's not going to happen like that. So yes, now without wasting much time, right, let's kickstart. And as I said you, when I said the expectation before this workshop, like don't expect yourself to be a pro developer after this workshop. My aim right now over here is to help you kickstart your journey in application development. Probably this workshop might give you an interest to explore this field, to build something out of and the knowledge you gain from here, or at least it will help you in exploring out different domains other than this as well. If you actually feel like, okay, this thought process, when I learned something like machine learning, I didn't have this thought process, I just went on to do some certification, and that's it, that was the end goal. So if you want this whatever I gonna the thought process involved, right, you can implement it in different domains as well. And yeah, I want you all to think aloud when we build our basic application, right? Like why we are building this, what's the importance of this, what is something which you can do out of this, right? And yes, post this workshop, I'll be sharing the GitHub link of the code as well, and you will be able to think on how application works, and how you should think while building an app. And also yes, you will have a demo application installed at your end in your mobile phone, which you can flaunt with your like flaunt for your friends, right? So that's also something which you can have after end of this workshop. And I won't talk more on the technicalities, right? In mobile application, you all know there are two things: one is native development, hybrid development. In native development, we use Java with or Kotlin. With Android Studio, with hybrid, we have this HTML, CSS, JS, TypeScript, all those things, right? Yeah, but what we're gonna do today is we are going to work on Ionic, which is a hybrid application development framework. So we code it once and it can be run across different environments. We can use that application in Android, we can use that application in iOS, we can even build a website out of that. So that's what we're gonna do today. And other than that, right, I'm not going to talk much on the like how Android functions, right? If because I'm not going to target this as a Android development workshop, it's an application development workshop. So I won't focus on different things, like there is an activity, there are intents, there are broadcast receivers, service providers, services. Probably if you want to read it in that detail, you can check it out on internet. But that's not something which I'll be focusing on. So yes, so this is the GitHub link. Sorry. Okay. So all right, this is the GitHub link which you can use. So this as a basic app. I've set up this code base. It's a basic code I have just added. Okay, so you can just clone this, and once you clone this, right, I expect you to have node package manager installed at your end, npm. Just clone this and do npm install. Once the packages are installed, probably you can follow me in building what I gonna build. And these are a few of the links. If you don't have Ionic, if you don't have Cordova, now what is this Cordova is, right? When I told you right now, right, we are going to have one code base which will be accessible across Android, iOS, as well as web. So this Cordova, it acts as a wrapper. So whatever code you write, right, this Cordova acts as a wrapper which converts the code into that particular native format. So if you don't have Ionic, if you don't have Cordova, you can just do npm install globally Ionic and Cordova. And yeah, we as I said, you have already set up the basic code. If you want to just experiment out, right, you can even try creating a blank application as well with this command. So that's it, that's being the initial setup. Other than this, we don't need anything to build what we're going to do today. And this is the main Ionic website. As I said, we have Ionic 5 as well going on right now. And with Ionic 5, you can integrate React, you can integrate Vue, JavaScript, Angular, anything of your choice. And but as I said, you right, and to Cordova, we have something called as capacitor as well. But we are not going to go in that depth. What we are going to do or explore today is this Ionic version 3. You can explore different frameworks or different tech stacks as well, but this is what we are going to use. And the tab which will help us out over here is this components tab. Okay, so there are these readily available components which can be used in our code. So for example, right, when we are going to build an application, you say me we are going to add a button. So fine, I can ask you where. Fine, okay. So you say me we are going to add a button. So it's easier, right? When I said you the application development is like quite speed, we can actually build a good application in quite good speed out over here. So there are these button components over here. So we just have to make use of this code. We just have to add this code in our application, and that's it. We can get that button added in our application. So for example, right, if you want something like, for example, we need a fab button in our application, right? So I want this fab button in an application, which I click, I see different options. Okay, so these are the different components which Ionic provides us to use, which we can readily use in our application. So this is just an example of this. So okay, you can explore this components tab in detail as well. And if there is a need, if the component which you need is not available out over here, we can even try building our own component as well. But I won't like explain you that right now because of the time constraints which you have in this workshop. So okay, you can reach out to me anytime later on if you wish to learn or explore more on this. So okay, this is the basic setup. Like once you clone the code from this repository, right? So this is my GitHub ID or mkdfc. Once you clone this code, right? Once you clone this code, once you do npm install, this is how your code base will look like. I've just done those steps. I've done npm install. I've cloned this repo. I'm on the main branch as yours. So if I do git branch, right? You can see I am on the main branch, which you should also be on. And this is how your code base will look like. Okay. So let me explain you a few things over here, right? So we have something called as assets, wherein we can have images and miscellaneous things, the graphics and all, which we won't use it that widely, but something which we're gonna make use of today's pages. Okay, so we have this one home page added right now. We'll add on more pages as well once we proceed further. So we'll work on these pages. We'll also have providers and other parts. But yeah, let me explain you what actually we are going to do today. So we'll build a small directory application. When I say a directory application is right, you can tell me what layout we should have and all those things, right? But what is something which I am visualizing is right, a simple application which I want to build in 30 minutes. Let's take it as a directory application. So what that application will have, probably it will have a button. Why it will have a button? Because when user clicks on that button, I want the user to navigate on a page where he can add the contact. When I say directory, it's a list of contact which we're gonna use. So probably that button, what it will do is right. So probably let's have those points added. Let me open a text editor. Okay, sorry, so something which I was explaining. So okay, okay, simple. Let me increase my font. Okay, so this is what we are going to have. Okay, so this you can probably comment it out if you feel my thinking is wrong or anything else we should add. So let me first complete what I gonna think. Okay, so simple contacts application. Why I'm building this application? To explain few of the basic concepts involved in the field of application development. That's my aim behind building this today. Okay, something which won't confuse you a lot, which will help you in identifying, probably which will help you in understanding basic concepts as well, like CRUD operations. When I say basic concepts, I mean CRUD operations. Okay, so this is what we are going to build, a simple contacts application. We'll have a button. Okay, this is what I'm thinking of. We'll have a button. What's the need of this button? Okay, so when user clicks on this button, he should be redirected to add contact details. All right, you agree with me on this? So once user clicks on this button, he'll be able to add the contact details. Let's have two fields. Okay, when I say contact details, sorry, so when I say contact details, right, let's have two fields as of now. Let's have full name and contact number. Let's have these two fields. So when user clicks on this button, he should see this form wherein he can add the full name and contact number. We'll have another button over here. User clicks on this, the details are stored. The details are stored in our database. Okay, and I'll also have something homepage for my application. Okay, what this homepage, probably this homepage will list all the contacts in form of list. Okay, and this list, it will give me option to edit or delete that contact. So this is the simple thing which we are going to build today. Okay, so our flow will be right. We'll have a home page. We'll have a add contacts page. These are the two pages which we are going to make use of today. Okay, so home page will list contact, and add a contacts page will allow us to add contacts. Okay, now the backend involved over here in this application, right? So we are going to do something like CRUD operations. If you are not aware of this CRUD, so CRUD is nothing but create, read, update, delete. This is termed as CRUD. So we are going to create a contact. We are going to read the list of contacts which we have in our database. If time permits, we'll update the contacts which are already there, and we'll also try to delete the contact. Okay, so with these basic operations, you can develop different applications. This being or this will help you in setting up the foundation. So this is a basic concept which will help you in building different applications. I mean, so CRUD operations. Another thing, right, which we are going to do today is navigation. I feel if you know these two things well, right, you can create a easy app, like a simple basic application on your own quite easily. So when I say navigation, like redirecting user on his or her button clicks, his or her button clicks. Okay, if you know these two things, right, you can actually start building a basic application on your own. You know where user should go if he clicks on that particular button, and you also know what you're gonna list when user goes out over there, or what are the actions which you're gonna perform after reaching that screen. I guess that should be enough for us to kickstart your journey in this application development. Okay, so I guess you're clear now on what we are going to build. Probably if you have any suggestions, right, let's create this dummy application, because I guess I'm running out of time over here. I'm actually exceeding what the time limit was, but fine. I don't have anything scheduled after this, so it's okay. Let's stretch a bit. So this is what we're gonna build today, a basic application. This is just of what we decided. We'll have a button. User clicks on that button. He goes to a page wherein he can add the details like full name and contact number of the user. If he clicks on that button, those details will be added in our database. I have created a sample APIs for this. I'll expose the link of those APIs with you. So I've created a basic backend application as well. So we'll have a simple table. Okay, we'll have a contacts table. So we'll have this contacts table. Let's have three fields in this contacts table: ID, full name, contact. Okay, let's play only with this one table, and I have APIs for this as well. Okay, so view contacts, right? When user calls this endpoint, he will be able to get all contacts present in DB. Okay, and another API which we'll discuss is create contact. If time permits, probably I'll even explain you the backend code which I have for this, or we can see how it goes. So create contact, right? What this will do is this will help us in adding contact to our database. Okay, so I guess you're clear with how things are going to happen once we start with this. So a basic application which will help us in adding the contacts, and which will help us in retrieving those contacts or deleting those contacts. So that's it. That's the simple application which you're gonna build. I'm using Ionic right now, but you can extend this concept of like you can extend this concept anywhere else you want. Okay, so I guess I'm good. Just let me check if I have any comments going. All right. Okay. So let's start. Fine. So as I said, right, I have a main page over here. This is how even a page will look for you if you are cloning that code. And this is a command which will help you in serving your application. Ionic serve. There are other commands involved. Probably we'll discuss those later. So what this Ionic serve will do, right? IONIC SERV. This Ionic serve will, whatever you're coding it out over here, right? You can see that actually in your browser. You can see those changes getting reflected over there in real time. So that is also something which helps in building applications at pace. I won't recommend this, like you build this for building something at production level, because it needs some different parameters as well, which you need to think of. But okay, something which will help you in kickstarting your journey. That is what we are targeting today, right? So yes, I guess we are good. Okay, let me select a device from here. Okay, so this is how our mobile application is right now. If you were able to do npm install, and if you are able to run Ionic, like if you're able to install Ionic and Cordova, and if you type Ionic serve, this is what you will see in your browser. So as of now, we don't have anything. We just have a title bar, a nav bar at the top saying home page. Okay. Now let's rename this. Let's have something like contacts page. Okay. So let's focus on these two files. We won't play much with CSS. We'll play with this TypeScript, and we'll play with HTML. I choose this because I guess most of you are aware of HTML, and that's the reason we decided to go with this. Else we could have choose different framework as well, but fine. Okay, so what we have decided is let's have let's change this title to contacts app. Okay, let me save this. Sorry, let me save this. Okay, it's building. Actually don't need this. Let's just refresh. Fine. Okay, you can see at the top, right, we were able to see something like contacts app. Just let me refresh this page. Stop. Okay, so on the top, that home app home page we had, right, we have replaced that with contacts app, and we can see at the top. Now what is that next thing which we will do? So what was our agenda was, okay, we'll have a button. Okay, when user clicks on this, he should be redirected to add contact details. So before creating this add contact detail page, right, let's create a button. Now remember when I said you we have these components readily available, right? So probably why not, let's just directly copy paste this button. Okay, I have this button available. I'll go inside design content. So design header and content are nothing but kind of HTML tags. You can say Ionic tags, I would say over here. Okay, what we are going to okay, add contact. This is what this button will show. Right. Okay, let's see. Cool, I got a button, add contact. Okay, all right, this looks good. But we also are going to display a list of contacts over here, right? So why not have this button somewhere at the bottom? So how about having a bottom nav, or how about having a footer, right? Can we do that? Let's see if we have some component readily available. If we have, let's use it. If we don't, let's create it out. Let me see if we have something called as navbar, if we have something called as footer. Okay, let's see navigation. Do we get anything? Okay, so fine. Let's see if we have anything in tabs. Let's have tabs at the bottom. Let's see if that works for us. Cool, right? Why not have something like this? Let's have this button. Okay, let's focus on Android. Let's have a button, add a contact in the footer, right? Let's try it out. Fine. So, okay, we'll have this button at the bottom of our screen. So over here, right, this add contact will have that in the bottom part of our screen in the footer. When I say the bottom part, we'll have it in the footer of our screen. Okay, so let's not have this button over here. We'll define something called as iron footer. Okay, we'll define something called as iron footer. This iron footer is nothing but something which you will see at the bottom half of your screen. And as I said, you right, we'll have that toolbar over there. Now you might question how you are remembering this tag names. See, it comes right when I've worked on these applications extensively. This is something which, like, I get revised to such things, right? So you will also learn it slowly and steadily. And there is internet, there is Stack Overflow, there are different sources which you can learn through. So don't just like mug up the code which you are doing, but just understand the concept. So when I said right, we'll have a footer, we'll have a toolbar in that footer, and probably we'll have one button added over there, right? That's what we discussed. Okay, so there is something called as iron buttons. Okay, iron buttons, like if you just decide to see what they consist of, so they have their formatting which Ionic comes up with for this iron button tag, which you can actually use. Okay, and then this button, right, which we have added over here, why not, let's try adding that button inside the sign button tab. Let's see what happens. Cool. You can see, right, we are getting this button at the bottom part of our screen now. It's like it looks a bit weird, right? Isn't it? Like it's somewhere it's stretched out, right? We want it to be in the center of our screen. Okay, probably let me do something, right? Text center. All right, let's see if it makes some difference. Else let's try it out if we have something. Cool. Now this looks a bit good, right? This is our home screen of our application. We have one button at the bottom part, correct? uh, this looks better than having that button over here. This was something which I feel good right now. If you're going to have, like, it's easily accessible as well. Okay, now next thing, what we discussed. Okay, so we created a button, we are done with this step. Now what we are going to think of is, when user clicks on this button, he should be redirected. So there is a click action involved in this button. Okay, let's just tag that click action. So if you are aware of Angular, this will be something very easy for you. If you are not, probably let's keep aside Angular and all those stuffs right now. Just follow what I'm telling you. It's because, right, development is more about you speaking with yourself, like, this is what I'm going to do, and just typing it out. So when I said, right, this button will have some click action associated with it. So let me define. Okay, so let me define that click action. So I have added this click action over here, and maybe when user clicks on that button, we will invoke this function, add contact. Okay. You might see something like unknown method add contact. Fine, because we have not defined this method anywhere else, right? We need to define this method somewhere. Yes. Okay, so we need to define this method somewhere, right? So fine, it's okay. Now this HTML, right? The view of your application, you define it in your HTML. The logic, the business logic, you can define it in this TypeScript file home.ts. Okay, just let me get rid of. So this is how the home.ts will look for you as well. So whatever functions or whatever logic you're gonna define, you're gonna mention over here, you are going to define those over here. So let's define this function, right? It is saying, like, unknown method add a contact. There is no method called as add a contact. So why not, let's add that method over here. This is whatever I'm explaining you right now is very basic. Okay, so just I want you to actually get an overall idea of, it's not that difficult to build applications. You can build it if you have passion, and if it is something which is close to you. Okay, so now if I just go over here, Cool, we don't have that error anymore. It said, right, that unknown method add a contact, but we have added that method over here now. So add contact method exists. And before navigating user to some different page, right, let's just see uh, whether that click action is happening properly, or whether this function is getting called. Okay, so let me just log over here. I'll print this out in our console. Okay, so what I'll do is let's add an action item. When user clicks on that, let's navigate user to add contact page. Okay, let's see if that happens. All right, it's building. Okay, let me just open console. Okay, my console is empty as of now. Now when user clicks on this, what we should see is this message getting printed out in our console. Cool, looks good, which means this method is binded to this button now. So whenever user clicks on this, right, yes, this is getting called. So we are able to see this thing, navigate user to add a contact page, getting printed over here times the user is clicking. So I'm clicking 10 times, I can see this message getting printed over here. So which means we are good. The click actions are working. Now what is that next thing which we want to do? The next thing is, instead of just printing this message out over here, we want uh, like, let's redirect user to add contacts page. Now how we are going to do this? So in Ionic there is something called as Nav Controller. So Nav Controller takes care of the navigation stack. Like, consider navigation as a stack, right? So different pages, right? Like right now we are going to redirect the user to add contacts page. So when user clicks on that button, right? Consider we have a stack. We have a navigation stack. Add contacts page is inserted to that navigation stack. You might be aware of this stack concept in data structures, right? So we do have a stack in Ionic, and over here as well we have two methods. One is push and one is pop. Okay, so let me comment that out. Okay, so navigation stack. Okay, we have two methods. One is push and another one is pop. Okay, so push is nothing but it will okay, so push will add that page to the navigation stack. Okay, and pop will do nothing but it will remove the page from the navigation stack. Okay, we are going to make use of these two methods. There are other methods as well, but probably I'll limit the content of this workshop to us using these two methods. One is push and one is pop. So and also this is the constructor. So we are defining this nav controller and nav params in the constructor. So add a contact, right? Let's make use of this nav controller defined over here. So with the help of this keyword, this dot nav controller, as I said you, right, we'll have two methods. One is push and pop. So over here we'll use the push method because we want to add. Okay, we will use push method because we want to add that page to our stack. Okay, so over here see, you can see the error, like you need to pass a string along this. So this string should be nothing but the name of the page. So let's create new page. Okay, so this is the command to create a new page. I need generate page and page name. So our page name is nothing but add contacts. Okay, this is our page name, add contact. Okay, add contact. It will take some time in generating the page. So we have the home page over here, right? Similarly, we'll have this add a contact page also being created. So this is the command for that. So let's wait for a second. Okay, we can see generated a page named add contact. So let's see how add contact looks like. So add contact also have similar kind of structure. We have a HTML, we have the module file, we have the TS file, as well as we have the CSS involved to this add contact. Fine. So what we want to achieve, what we have discussed is, right, sorry. Okay. So when user clicks on this button, he should be redirected to add contacts page. So we have created the add contacts page. Okay, we have created this add contacts page. So let's just define that page over here, right? So yep, our logic looks good now. Let's see. Let's describe the logic which we have done. So we have created a button. We have binded this button to this add contact method. So when user clicks on this button, this add contact button gets called, and what happens is, right, when add contact, when this method is getting called, right, we push the add contacts page to our navigation stack, which means when user clicks on this button, this is the page which will be loaded in front of the user. Okay, let's see now. Okay, maybe let's define, right, on the title we have right now contacts app. Now when user clicks on add contact, we want to show something like add new contact, okay, on the title. Cool, this looks good. Probably let's see if it's working out for us. Okay, just let me refresh it. All right, so we have this add contact at the bottom, we have contacts app. Now if I click on this, that add contacts page should open. Let's see if it's opening or not. Perfect, right? Add new contact page open for us. If I click over here, we are back to our home page. So we are done with the first thing. What was the first thing was, when user clicks on add a contact, he should be redirected to a add a contact page where he'll be able to add his details. So yes, we have implemented that successfully. When user clicks on add a contact, he is able to see this add new contact page. Now let's move on to the next part. Okay, so yes, this is done. Okay, this is done. Now next thing is this contact details. So on this page we'll have two inputs. One will be the full name input and another will be a contact number input. Sorry. Okay, so when user should, like, we should have two inputs. Okay, two inputs, one for full name and another one for contact number. Okay, let's have these two inputs over here. So again, let's go back. Okay, let's go back. Sorry, let's go back. Let's see if are there any components which we can readily use. So I can see something called as inputs available over here. Exactly what I was looking for, right? Just that instead of first name, I should have full name, and instead of last name, I should have nothing. Sorry. Okay, I should have nothing but contacts, right? So this works for us. Yes. Let's see what are the different inputs available for us. This was a normal input. This is floating labels. So when user clicks on this, we'll have this. Uh, Fine. Let's use this floating labels. What say? If you're all right, let's use this floating labels for now. Okay. So let me just copy this code and let me just add it over here. So now you will ask me, right, where should we add? Should we add it in the header, or we should add it in content, or we should have it in footer? So right, we want that to be present in the center of the screen. We don't want it to be over here. We don't want it to be over here. So we that those two inputs, right, of full name and mobile number, they are going to be a part of our screen. They are the content of our screen. So let's add that over here. Okay, I just copy pasted this code from the Ionic website, which even you can do. Okay, let's see how it actually looks for us. Let's restarted the application. Let's wait for a minute. Perfect. I am seeing the username field, I am seeing the password field. Isn't it easy, right? Something which seemed to far reach task for you, it's quite easier for you right now. We are having the username field and password field. This is nothing but your login page, right? Like after this workshop, even if you're going to build something, right, that application might have a login. In that case, you can use this logic. You will have these two fields, username field and password field, right? So even password is in the password format. Okay, but let's do it as per our requirements, right? And also we are going to have that button, right? We are going to have this button as well. Sorry. sign in. Instead of sign in, this button will be nothing but add new contact thing for us. So let me define it over here. So I'll have a div. Inside my div, I'll have a button. So why not? Let's just copy that code for the button, which we had already, right? Okay, div button and button, and this will be nothing but create new contact. Cool. So this should be it, and let me have it in the block format. Let's see how it looks. Do we get that button to the desired position? Perfect. Let's add a bit padding. It's building for us. Perfect. I've added just a bit of padding so that it looks good. Now, okay, this create new contact, it's there. Let's replace this username field with full name, and instead of password, let's have something called as contact, and the type is nothing but tel, like telephone. When I said the type was tel, and there is also one attribute with this ion input tag max length. So max length that input will have, right? So the max length that input will have is 10 for us. Now let's see how things look. Are they close to what we need? So Soham and my contact. Okay. Let's see if I'm able to add something more than 10. No. See, I'm typing it out on my keyboard, but I am restricted. I cannot add something more than 10. Okay. So cool. So that max length attribute is also working. So Soham Dixit, my name and contact. Fine. Now let's do the same thing as we did for that add new button, right? On click of this, we will send these details to our backend. Okay. Don't worry, don't get confused about how we are going to connect this and all. It's going to be a pretty simple thing to do. So let's first have that click action set up, which we did even before in that home page, right? Let's do the same thing over here. So on click, we'll have this method called as create contact. All right. Let's define this method over here. Okay. Sorry, not over here. This is our home page. We're not gonna play with this. We'll play with the add contact.ts. All the logic of add contact HTML, we'll add it over here. Let me remove this. So create contact. Okay. All the backend to store the contact details. This is what this method is going to do. Now, before that, right, we also need to ensure, let me close this. We also need to ensure this values, right? Because these are the values which we are going to pass it to our backend. So this full name and contact, let's bind these values as well. The way we binded this button, right? Let's bind these values as well. So when user clicks on that button, we are actually getting the values of the inputs which is typing it out. So to do that, right, as I said, we are going to make use of Angular with this Ionic thing. There is something called as ng model, which you can even check it out later on. Okay, this ng model is nothing but it helps us in 2D binding. When I say 2D binding, so Angular, in Angular, right, your view and your business logic, there is a two-way binding involved in Angular. Like in React, right, people who know React, there is something called as JSX, and React doesn't provide this two-way binding. In React, you have a JSX file, you return a JSX, you have different hooks as well, which you make use of to bind your different input elements. So similarly in Ionic, we have this different tags: ng hook, ng model, ng for, ng options. There are these different ng tags which you can check it out later on as well. So let me bind this input to this name variable, and let me bind this contact input to contact variable. Now it's throwing an error. what it's saying is right, identifier name is not defined. Correct. We have never defined the name, right? Did we didn't. So it's time for us now to define the variables. So what were the two variables? One was name and another one was contact. Okay, this is one of the way of doing things. Okay, so name is of type string and contact, let's also have it as type of string, which will send it to our backend. You can even create interfaces as well for this, if your format is going to remain the same across the application. But I'm limiting this thing to just help you identify how actually you can build things. Okay, so you can even create an interface and all, but let's not complicate the things. So let's keep it simple. Simple, it will help you in understanding. So, and probably like we can explore it later on as well. So we let's see if that error is gone. Yes, we don't have that error anymore. So what actually we have done right now is right, when user clicks on this button, now what are these variables actually? So whatever user is typing it out, right? When I type full name, that full name is assigned to this variable. The contact which we are typing it out is assigned to this variable. Okay. Now when I said it, when I say the whatever the user is typing is getting assigned to this variable, let's check whether that is correct or not. So what we'll do is right, when user clicks on the create contact button, let's print out those details. Okay, let's print out the name and let's print out the contact number as well. So what it says is cannot. Oh, sorry. We are going to use this dot name and this dot contact. Okay, cool. Because we are referencing out to these variables. Okay, that's the reason. So what we are going to do is when user clicks on that button, we should actually see the name and the contact which we have typed out in our console. Let's see if that happens or not. Okay, we do have some error. No value access for mm, what is this? Okay, no value accessor for the form control. Did we use form? Let's just check the code once. Okay, we have the iron list. We have an iron label. Oh, sorry. This binding should be done to the input and not to the label. That was the mistake which we did. Same thing over here. My bad. So this binding, right? We are actually binding the input. We are not binding the label, right? So let's bind the input. Let's see. I guess the error should no more be there right now. Perfect. We don't have any errors. Let's see. Soham, contact. If I'm clicking on create new contact, I should see these details in the console. Perfect. I am able to see the details in the console. And I'm clicking out. If I type something different, okay. Uh, Maybe Mr. X and its contact number 567. If I'm clicking it, correct, I'm able to see those values getting printed out over here, which means whatever we discussed, right, where it went. Yes, this is done. Two inputs, full name, contact number. User clicks on this, the details are printed right now. The details are not stored. Now the next task is storing these details in our database. It might look a bit difficult for you, but let me make it simpler. Okay, so instead of us, right, let's create an object. Okay, let's create an object. When I say an object, right, this object will pass it to our backend. So let me name it as add contact object. Okay, this object has two keys. One is name. I guess that's what my backend expects. Yes, and one is contact. Okay, and let's just bind these variables to that thing. So this dot add contact object dot name. Just let me check. I'm just having my backend out over here. Just let me ensure that the variables are correct. Okay, so what I'm doing out over here is right dot contact is equal to this dot contact. So what I'm doing over here is right, this is an object, right? So this is an object which we are going to pass to our backend. Okay. This object will have two keys. One is name and another one is contact. So when user clicks on that create contact, right, instead of just printing out those name and contact in the console, I am just assigning this name field to this, the name which user is inputting, and the contact field to the contact which user is inputting. That's it. That's what I'm doing in these two lines. Okay. The next thing. Now we are going to call our backend service to store these details. Okay, so you might be aware of something called as request response, right? So we are going to make a request, or we are going to make a request call to our backend. It is going to be a post call. So post is nothing but we are going to add the entry in our database, and in return backend will give us a response which will validate in front end. So if that response is success, we'll show a message to the user saying contact is added successfully. If we get something error, like if there is an issue with our backend, we'll even try to show that to the user as well. So, but before that, right, why not let's do validation, like before adding the data to our backend. So like be making an API call, right? Let's do some validation. Now this is just a plain simple validation I'm going to do. You can improvise this validation by making use of forms as well. Ionic provides forms, like you do those validation in your HTML forms. Similarly, you can do it out over here as well. But as I have not made use of forms, right? We had just these two fields, and I just wanted to explain you the concept or the logic, right? I didn't made use of forms. So what validation I'm going to do? I'll just check if my name is not like if that name input, right? We have something out there in that name input, right? Of this. Okay. And what this means is, right, this is similar to if my name field is empty. So ask user to input name. Cool. Similarly, I'll say if we don't have contact, like if user has not inputted contact, ask user to input contact. Okay, else just make an API call. That's it. That's how our flow is going to be. So when user clicks on create contact button, right, when user clicks on that, we'll have these three things. We'll first validate name. If that name field is empty, we'll ask user to input name. If the contact field is empty, we'll ask user to input the contact. If both these fields are filled, we'll just make an API call to store the details. So this is our logic. Okay, logic validation. Sorry, validation logic. I mean, the validation logic while adding contacts. Okay, and it's important, right? Just a tip for you, like whatever code you do now or in future, just try to add the comments to your code. They are helpful. So please do that so that whatever I'm writing, someone else if refers in the future, right, it becomes easier for them to understand what this function will do or what this call will do or where this call, like what calls will happen, right? So have comments added in your code. That's my suggestion. So okay, when I think of building a mobile application, right? When I say ask user to input name, you might see, right, there is a, for example, whatever applications you have in your mobile, right? For example, you have WhatsApp installed, right? You try to send a media file greater than 16 MB, you get that box saying that media file cannot exceed 16 MB or something, right? You try to forward that message for people more than for more than 5 people, you get a message, right? Alert message saying you cannot send a message to more than 5 people. So let's try to have that alert in place over here. So again, let's go back. Let's see, do we have any alerts which Ionic readily provides? Yes. So this is what even we are going to show. When user clicks on that button and if that name field is empty, we'll say validation error, please input name. So let's see how we're going to do that. So let's try to define the alert controller. Okay. I'm just making use of the code which is present over there. Okay, I'm importing the alert controller as well. What is the next thing to be done? Okay, this is the method. Let me define this method as well. Okay, and let's get into parameters. One is title and one is subtitle. Let me replace this title, okay, with the title field, and let me replace this subtitle with the subtitle. I'm making this function a dynamic, right? So I want to show alert for the full name, as well as I want to show alert for contact. So instead of replicating this function again and again, right, I could have created a common function as well, but it's okay. Let's just create a common function over here, as we are going to make use of this over here itself. And let's try to call that function now. Okay, we are going to call that function, and it asks for two parameters. One is title. So title is nothing but validation error, and subtitle is nothing but please input full name. That's it. If the full name is not empty, we'll ask user to input the full name. Similarly, right? Uh, okay. Again, this is going to be the validation error. Maybe I could have created a common title as well, but it's okay. Fine. It's okay. So please input contact number. All right. So this should work, and maybe let's just pass on an alert as well. Okay, success. This is just for our understanding. Make an API call to store the details. Perfect. Let's try it out what we have typed. Okay, so let me just go back to our application. It's building. Okay, let's try to just click. Let's just try to click this create new contact. Correct. That's what we were expecting, right? Full name, there is nothing, and see how our logic, how the logic we applied. First, it will check for the name field, then it will check for the contact field. If you would have applied the contact field first and then name, then here you should see please input contact. But the form, the way in which we have structured our page, right? First is full name, and first the next one is contact. So let's follow the same hierarchy. So create new contact. Validation error, please input full name. Perfect. Which means this part of code is getting executed. Our name field is empty, and we are seeing this message. What next? What next? So maybe let me add my name. Now let's try it out. Correct. Please input contact number. Now this part, this if didn't get executed because we had something in our name input. Now it will, the code execution will come over here. Do we have anything in our contact? No, we don't. Which means we'll see this validation error. Okay, let me add something in my contact. Now we should be good to go. We have full name as well as contact in place. Now what if I click on create new contact? Success. Yes. Now it's simple. Make an API call to store the details. That's it. That's the final step of our application. Whatever details we are inputting over here, we are just going to make an API call to store these details in our database. So that's our next action item. Okay, so let's wipe this out alert. Before moving on to connecting our application to our backend, right, I would like to pause for a minute or so. I'll just have a quick 2 minutes of break, and we'll resume in like 6:35. We'll resume at 6:35. I'll just have water and come back. Okay, if you have any questions, keep them coming. I'll answer it at the end of the workshop. So just a quick break for a minute or so, and I'll be back. Okay, I hope you guys are enjoying this. All right, I'll just be back in a minute. Okay. Hello. Yeah, I guess I'm audible and we should be good to go. All right. Okay. Yep. So I'm back. Let's continue where we left. Sorry for that quick pause of couple of minutes. Let me share the screen again. Okay. I guess my screen is visible. So let's get on to the next part. What we're gonna do is we are going to make an API call, right? So I have that helper function and all added over here. Okay. So I guess I just got a request that we are running out of time. So maybe I can just quickly show you the code, I guess. Or okay. So the way we generated page, right? There is something called as provider as well. Okay. API calls. So providers are nothing but your services or the functions. Sorry, services or things related to right, which are going to remain across your application. So, for example, this API calls provider, right? This provider will be nothing but it will help me in calling my APIs, right? Just a second. Yes. Okay, so that was just quite disturbance. Okay, so now let's start with it. Okay, let's quickly, without wasting much time, let's quickly connect our application to our database. So what we're gonna do is right, we are going to create a provider. So this provider will be responsible for doing a common function, which is like calling the APIs involved in our application. That's it. That's what this provider is going to do. So the way it took time, right, for creating a page, similarly for creating or generating a provider, it will take some time. In this provider, we'll create divs which will be responsible to call our backend. So for example, right, if I call create contact method from here, right, this create contact method, sorry, create contact call. Okay, if this is my method, right, which will define in this API calls provider. This method will be responsible for making an API call to store the details in database. So, yeah, I just created this provider API calls. Let me add the basic code involved in this thing, right? I'll be making use of HTTP. I won't go with HTTP client. Need to define it. All right. And we just discussed, right? Maybe create contact. or let's call it as add a contact. Like you will come to know what I'm doing right now. So this add a contact, right? This will be just a method which will responsible of calling our backend. Okay, and this is let me define the base URL of our application as well. I'll be a bit fast over here. I guess we are quite over time, but it's okay. Okay, so I've just deployed the sample backend application on Heroku. Heroku, you might be aware of what Heroku is. If not, I can explain you. But fine. So I've deployed a basic application on Heroku. So this is the link of that application. So all the API calls, this will be the base URL of that, right? And fine. So what I'll do is I'll have at start, right? We discussed like there are different methods like create contact, view contact, add a contact, right? So let's define this add a contact. So this is nothing but like, okay, this is one of an API which I have written. So this is nothing but right. This will be something like this slash add a contact. I'm just defining a base URL at the top so that I don't have to repeat it everywhere else. So I'll make a call. This is how our API URL will look like, which will be responsible for adding the data. We actually need to pass the data to this function, which will pass it to our backend as well. And in return, right, you can check this out how promises work. Okay, promises is a good topic to learn, but this promises, right, I'll define this promises as well. Resolve reject, make use of arrow function. This is actually a standard format used across like while making an API call through Ionic. So you can get this out easily as well. I'm just making it ready for you over here. Okay, you need not worry if you're not getting this code. What I'm doing is right, you need not worry of this part. You can just focus on the logic which we did before that and what this code is going to do, right? I'll explain you that as well. Along with this HTTP, we also need to import something called as headers. Okay, this might confuse you a bit. I can get it, but it's okay. Like it's fine. Like you can read about the syntax of this later on, and I don't expect you that you should be good with this. Okay, so subscribe. Am I doing something wrong? No, subscribe. Okay, and resolve reject. Subscribe. And let's see what errors we get. We'll debug those later on. Okay, we are subscribing, and over here we'll resolve this. This code, I completely agree. This can actually be a bit confusing for you, but it's okay. Don't worry. We are going to replicate this code while getting. Okay, this is what will happen. That's why the subscribe is throwing error for us. Injectable. Okay, this is our base URL. Instructor public HTTP add contacts data, right? Return new promise. If resolve reject. Sometimes even I do mess up in the syntax, so it's perfectly fine. Like no one can be that perfect to start with. Oh shit, this is not the get method, but this is the post method which we are doing. So we got a mistake over here. We also need to pass in the data. And we have a headers. Oh, okay. So we had to use a dot and not a comma. So that was slight mistake at my end, but it's okay. So what this thing will do is right. Similarly, will as I said, right, this code will use across different places. So we'll also have something called as get contact. Instead of post, it will be just a get method. We won't have any data to be passed. This get contact method will be responsible for getting us the contact from our databases. So we'll have something called as view contacts for that. Okay. Perfectly fine. All right. Now, as discussed, right, we'll make an API call over here. So uh, we are going to make use of the helper if I'm not defined over here. So this helper, right, this helper variable is nothing but this will help us in accessing the functions which we define in that API provider right now, right? So if I just do helper dot write, I can get the functions which are present over there. So this dot, so we have these two methods, if an add contact and get contact. So over here we have to add contact, and our add contact, it requires us to pass the data. So over here we'll pass this object which we have. Okay, so add contact object. Okay, and remember we had that resolve and reject added over here, over there, right? So what will happen is, right, we'll get a result over here. So let me just print out that result. Okay, fine. Okay, so in this result, right, we'll just print like if that API, sorry, if that contact is added successfully in our backend, we'll message it out accordingly. Okay, and we'll just go back to our previous page. I'm just consoling it out right now. We can even show it in a test format, a toast format, or even in the alert format, but we'll just console. Okay, contact added successfully. Okay, and else console.log if something went wrong. Okay, and once the contact is added successfully, right, we want the user to navigate back to the home page. So remember we discussed at the start the two methods which we're gonna use, push and pop. So over here we'll make use of this pop method, right? So fine, we'll just add that contact and we'll redirect user to the home page. And also, as we are using, then let's even catch the errors as well. If we are going to have any errors, right, we need to ensure that we are catching those errors as well. This is similar of you can consider try catch block. Maybe something which is confusing you, but don't worry, right? We'll have. I know we are out of time, but it's okay. Uh, we'll do something which will help you in understanding this fail to add contact. Okay, so that's it. Our thing is done. We are making an API call to add this contact object to our database, and right, let's validate whether this API URL is working or not. Okay, so let's see whether we have anything in our contacts. So this is that view contacts API, right? Let's see if we have something. Just let me make an API call just to validate whether we have any contacts in our backend. If we have, we should see these contacts over here. So yes, we don't have anything. You can see the response is an empty array. Now what we want is, right, whenever we are going to create a contact, this response should consist of that contact if it is added successfully. So let's see. Sorry, let me just refresh this page. Okay, we are going to add a contact. What it's showing, invalid link add. Okay, just let me refresh the application. Sometimes, right, when you load this app a lot of times, sometimes it misbehaves, but it's okay. I'm just restarting the application, and when user clicks on that add a contact, right, we should see that contact being present in part of this response. Okay, and the other thing which will be left is just to show the name and the contact number which is getting stored in our database to the user. That's it, and we should be done with that in another 5 minutes. Okay, it's running. All right, let's see. Okay, yeah, I said right, it misbehaves sometimes, but it's okay. Now if I'm adding, right, full name, and if I'm creating a new contact, it should be added to our database. Yes, contact added successfully. Now if I refresh this, right, I should see that in my response. Do you see it? Yes, in response, I am having a contact which we just added via that application over here. Now, what's the next part? Next and the final part. whatever response we are having it over here, right? We discussed at the start that we are going to list it out over here. So let's do that. For that, our backend thing is done. We are sorry, the service thing is done. We have created this function for that, get contact. We just have to now call this function from our home screen. That's it. Once we are done with that, we are good to go. So we'll have one more function which will call once the application loads. Okay. So similarly, right, to access the functions we have defined in that provider, we will have an helper over here as well. API calls provider. Okay. And over here, if this dot helper that's it. That's what I want, right? I want to make a call, and once that call is success, I'll just have to store this result somewhere which will be showing it to the user. Okay. Let me store that result to a variable. Okay, let me create a variable called as contact list. Okay, so this result, right, which we are getting, I'll just assign that to the contact list. Okay, this dot contact. So I'm just extracting the response object, like you can see over here, right? We have this response. A response is nothing but an array of an object. So I'm just extracting this array by using this syntax. Okay, and just see whether that thing is getting printed in our contact list or not. Okay, and because we'll be making use of this contact list actually to render the result in the UI. So, and also let's see, let's print it out if it fails. Okay, now the thing is we need to make a call. We don't have any kind of button, right? We are not expecting the user to click the button and then get the result. We need to make a call to this app. Need to load the data as soon as user comes to that page. So there are different functions or different life cycle of an Ionic. So there is something called as Ion view, grid load, Ion view, will enter. There are different functions like this in the life cycle. So what I'm doing is, right, once the user comes to that page, this function gets called. So this is as per the Ionic's life cycle. So once this function gets called, I'm making a call to this contact list. That's it. And let's see, when user comes to that page, we'll make call to this contact list, and we should have that response stored in this variable. Okay. Let's see if that's happening or not. Once the response is stored in this variable, right, I can use this variable anywhere I want. So I mean, like, I can use this variable in my HTML as well, like whatever details are there, right, I can use it over here as well to render the data. So yes, you can see over here, right, we are seeing the contact at like that response getting printed over here, which means this variable, right, contact list variable is having the response now. Now what is the next thing is, right, let's see how this response looks like. So this response is nothing but an array of an object. So we can iterate this array because this can have n number of objects. So in Angular, right, to iterate an array of object, there is something called as ng for, like we had ng model and all. So we'll make use of that ng for, and we'll just print out this name and contact of the user on the home page. Okay, so it's more about playing in the HTML now. So in ion content, right, we'll have a list wherein we'll render this result, and in that list, right, maybe let's have an item. Okay, and as I said, you right, this list is nothing but we need to render, I mean, like, we need to iterate over the object which we just stored. So let item, this is typical for loop syntax in JavaScript, right? So let item of what it was, right, we defined. So let item of contact list. Okay, I'm hurrying a bit because of time constraint. I hope it's okay for you guys. Okay, we'll just print out the name. That's what we see, right? The name and the contact. A name and contact. That's it. Let's just print out these two details. Let's see if we get those two details. If we do, okay, something wrong. What's wrong in our code? Okay, we have an item. Oh shit, this is the wrong syntax. So over here we have to use two curly braces. and over here it should be item.contact, because this item is nothing but you do it in C++, right? For I is equal to 0, I is less than n, I plus plus. So this item is nothing but like I, for item is equal to 0, item is less than equal to contact list dot size item plus plus, and just we are extracting the name and contact from that item. Got it? Yes, we are seeing the name we just added, right? Let's test it out. I said you read code once, use it anywhere. So this can act as a website as well. Now I'm adding a contact. Okay, Mr. X. I'll add a contact. Create new contact. It should be visible over here. Perfect. We were able to create a contact. We are able to read the contact. Two things are left: update and delete, I guess, but we are quite over time and I won't take this right now. Maybe you can try it out. I'll just give you a hint of how you can do that. The way we created the API calls for get and add, right? Similar, you can do it for update and delete. On delete, when user clicks on the delete button, you can just pass that ID involved, right? We have these different IDs over here. So you can just pass that ID and then that's it. Calling that API will help you get rid of this particular ID which you are deleting, and you should be good to go. Similarly, for update, you can again open this screen pre-filled with that information. Instead of create new contact, you'll have something like update details, and once that call is success, that updated details, you'll see it over here. So I'm good. I guess I stretched it a bit, but I guess you got a good idea and good understanding of how I mean, like, how things actually happen in this application development field. Ionic was just an example. Oh shit, my video was off. Yeah, I didn't recollect that. It's okay. So fine. I guess you got an overall understanding of how applications are built. It's not that difficult actually. If you're having a passion, do explore. Ionic was just an example. Take framework of your choice, but remember, right, what we did. We had this list with us wherein we just first thought of how our application is going to look like. What are the different things which our application is going to contain? So this is how you should even do it at your end. And maybe like if you have any queries, right, you feel free to connect with me anytime. These are my details which you are seeing on your screen. Like on LinkedIn, you can follow me. This is my LinkedIn ID, Dixit Soham 7. And if you want my email as well, you can just scan this QR. You should get my contact and email details. Feel free to connect with me anytime. I'll be happy to help. And yeah, one last thing which I would love to tell is like your failure, it does not define you. Your determination does. So be determined in whatever you do and never lose your hope, and participate as much as you can in different hackathons, different competitions, right? That will help you in developing yourself as a good developer. And don't just do things for the sake of certification. That's my strong viewpoint I have. Over to you, Sheesh. I'm done with the demo I had.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. That was a wonderful insight into the world of app dev and how we
Yeah,
can get started with hackathons. And the hands-on tutorial definitely helped all of us a lot. And right, we can begin with the Q&A session now. I'll read out the first question as and when I see it.
sure.
Right, so Utkarsh has a doubt. How do Apple's app clips work? It lets users try out an app's basic functionality without fully downloading it. So how does it work?
Okay, let me. So, what is asking? How do Apple's app clips work? It lets user try out an app basically. Okay, so there is something on the Google side as well, app preview. So right, when you publish your application, right, as per my knowledge, right, maybe I may be wrong, I need to check on this. So when you publish an application on different stores, right, there is something called as app preview. Make your application available for app preview. So that app preview is nothing but like it allows you to use your application without actually user letting it install in his or her device. So there are those settings which he or she can configure, and that's how it works. In order to know more of the technicalities, right, even I need to read about it, because whatever applications I have published, right, based on my experience, I have never used this app preview as of now. Yeah.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for answering that. Moving on to the next question. Right. So Devansh has a question. How does Ionic applications work on older Androids?
Okay, so see, it's not about older Androids. Okay, I didn't went to that part. So when you create a new Ionic application, right, there is one file, okay, which states the if you have used Android Studio in the past, right, there is something called as minimum SDK and max SDK version. So minimum SDK is nothing but over there you have to define what is the minimum version of Android which your application is going to support. So similarly, right, there are configurations which you can do in your Ionic app as well, where you can mention what is the minimum SDK version available for your application, and that's how it works. So, for example, if you select SDK version greater than or equal to 15, right? So, for all the Android versions supporting SDK is less than 15, it won't work. It's similar like that Cordova which we talked about, right? Cordova, it acts as a wrapper which converts your code to a native set, and all these configurations and parameters, right? Minimum SDK, max SDK, they are taken into consideration over there.
All right, got it. Thank you. Ananya has a question. Can we use Firebase with Ionic?
Yes, you definitely can use Firebase. I was actually going to make use of Firebase for this tutorial, but I tried to, because of the time constraint, I just tried to use the APIs which I had handy. But yes, you can make use of Firebase with your Ionic application as well.
Right, okay, great. Moving on to the next question. Right, so the next question is by Prasoon. How can we debug an Ionic application on a real-time Android or iOS device?
Okay, so I forgot Prasun to tell, right? I was using that command called as Ionic serve to execute that application and check it on our website, right? In real time in Google Chrome. So there are two more commands: Ionic Cordova build Android, or sorry, Ionic Cordova run Android. What it does is, right, if you have your application, if you have your mobile device plugged into your laptop, or if you have Android simulator installed in your system, right? That particular application which you are executing in your browser, you will be able to see that application on your mobile device as well, or your emulator as well. And debugging that application is similar to how you debug it in Android Studio. So maybe once the application starts, right, you can monitor what activity is getting called or what things are happening in the log monitor. So debugging is same. It's just that two things which I would like to add on over here is, if you want to run the application which you built right now on your mobile devices, right, just type in the command Ionic Cordova run Android. If you want to execute the application you just built on your iOS device, you can just type it out Ionic Cordova run iOS. So that's how it is, and then you can monitor it in log in Android Studio as well. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for answering that. The next question is by Harsh. What was your main focus before placements? Project development in hackathons or open source projects or competitive coding?
Okay, so let me be frank over here. Like most of the people might have questions on this domain. So I did competitive programming as well, but I was not like, if you ask me, right, I was not someone who used to take part in coding challenges or competitive programming, like doing code chef kind of stuffs. I was more into project development hackathons, because that's where I felt my interest to be. It was not like I didn't wanted to do competitive coding. I did it just to brush up my logic, just to brush up the coding skills which I should possess. But I didn't do it as a part of competition. Like I didn't do it at that scale of participating in something like ACMI, CPC, or that sort of thing. I did it just to brush up my logic, understand different terminologies, like understand different algorithms, data structures, and like develop my skills over there. But I did participate in a lot of hackathons, is what I can say. Open source was not something which I did at that scale in my college days. But yeah, I am actually doing open source right now, like internal open source at an org where I'm working right now. But I was more into hackathon, to be frank. Yeah.
Right, okay, thank you for that answer. The next question is by Aditya. What are some project ideas we should avoid during hackathons?
I mean, it depends completely. There is nothing which I can tell you like avoid this when you are participating in a hackathon, right? Do read the problem statement in detail, what they want from you. do check out what is available associated, like what are the available solutions associated to that problem. Because what I have identified is, right, when people read the problem they just start coding. Don't do that. Do a thorough research of what are the different solutions available, why even that org is asking you to solve that particular problem statement, right? What is the main intention or main motive behind that? Understand that, do your research, and then think of something which will have that impact, which will be unique and which will add the value, right, to the problem which you're solving. So your solution should be shaped in such a way that all these things are covered over there. Like it should have that uniqueness as well. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much for answering that. Right. So thank you so much for answering all our queries. It was a really fun Q&A session. Now, due to the time constraint, we won't be able to take any further questions. Apologies on our behalf.
Yeah,
Right. So
no worries, no worries. Like, yeah, even if you have like any one of you have any questions, right, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to help. And yeah, I guess I stretched it a bit, but I could not resist in explaining myself, right? But yeah, it's okay.
thank you so much, sir, for that. We have reached the culmination of today's workshop. And once again, I would like to thank you, sir, for your time and knowledge. This was a
Yeah,
really fun and learning, amazing experience. Thank you so much.
thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.